It was a bright and sunny morning in Florida, but this was to be different than all the other 364 bright and sunny mornings in Florida. Why? Because this was the day of the unknown. This was the day to boldly go where no one had gone before. This was the day of my American citizenship test. I would prove my extensive knowledge of American history. I would prove that I would indeed make an excellent American citizen, despite the fact that on Independence Day, as an American Brit, I would be celebrating my own downfall. And I would prove my commitment to American values, even if this meant giving up my precious British afternoon tea and crumpets for a box of chicken nuggets or muffins. My husband and I walked past the security guards at the immigration office and made our way to the rather crowded waiting area. As I sat, nervously awaiting my turn, there was an impending feeling of the unknown which swept over me. I had no idea what to expect. I'd never been through an experience like this. When I was eventually called, we went to the interview room, and I was greeted rather frostily by a tall, attractive African-American lady standing behind a desk on which sat a computer and a pile of papers. Our first interaction was something like this. "Hello, sit down." As I gingerly sat down, I looked around the room and with my very limited eyesight was able to discern in the very fluorescent lit room, a very bare room, very unwelcoming. The lady proceeded to ask me a series of official questions, name, address, date of birth, and she got past this section and then she moved on to the citizenship test. She didn't look at me once during this time. She asked me questions such as, when was the date of American independence? What were the 27 amendments to the first Constitution called? The American Constitution? And all the other citizenship questions she asked without looking at me. I whizzed through the section with ease and breathed an immense sigh of relief when the section was over. The lady then started shuffling through her papers. She pulled out a form. I recognised this form to be my ethnic origin, racial origin form that you tick, which I filled out several months earlier. I remember that when I was actually filling out this form, there were a number of categories, and I was thinking about these categories, thinking, it's impossible, I have no idea, this is completely unknown to me. How am I supposed to know what category I fit into? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to remind you that I am a singer and a musician, as was stated at the beginning of the speech. And I remember, as I was filling out these categories, a performance that I'd recently done with an R&B band. And the bass player had afterwards remarked to me that his friends, some of his friends in the audience, had said to him that they were absolutely astonished when they heard me sing. "Man," they had said, "that white girl, she can sing. She off the chain, man." Naturally, I was very flattered that they enjoyed my singing. But this remark also took me somewhat by surprise because I've always considered myself to be racially mixed. So bearing this in mind, as I was looking at these categories, I just ticked whatever box I thought was appropriate. Back in the interview room, the immigration officer pointed at the form with her pen and chided me, "You tick white and you tick black. You can't have both." "Why on earth not?" I asked her. "Because they ain't gonna accept it. You gotta choose. What do you want me to put?" I tried to assimilate this very difficult and unreasonable choice, to the extent that my thoughts became verbal. I said to her, "If we just tick white, won't I be denying any black or any other variation in my origins? And if I just tick black, will I not be denying any white or other combinations in my ancestry? For the first time, that lady looked at me, her eyes wide, I could see this, her mouth open, and she exclaimed, "Wow!" There was a moment of silence, and I again repeated my question, "What would you do?" She smiled, nodded her head and said, "I don't know, I ain't getting involved, I ain't saying nothing." We sat and looked at each other for a minute, and then she said to me, "There is another category." "Oh yes." "Unknown." There you go. Put it down as unknown. An unknown specimen of the American race. After this rather meaningful interaction between us, our interview became decidedly more friendly and relaxed. Perhaps this could have been because she was dealing with an unknown specimen, who knows? But ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, I leave you with this thought. If you are ever called to an interview, whether it be for a citizenship test, for a job, or for any other reason, and they cannot categorize you, this may well be your opportunity to boldly go where no one has gone before. Because remember this, there's no place like unknown.